So far, we've seen the indeterminate form 0 over 0. Whenever you encounter 0 over 0, you can't really determine anything. You have to do something cunning in order to evaluate the limit of this. So, for example, if you're trying to find the limit of this, as x tends to 1, this thing here will be 0, and then this thing here will also be 0. So when you encounter 0 over 0, you can't determine anything. This is an indeterminate form. Well, there are other indeterminate forms. So if you look at this here, natural log of x looks like this. So this here is 1. So as x tends to infinity, you can see natural log is always climbing. It's always climbing, and it's heading towards infinity. If you look at the denominator, as x tends to infinity, this whole thing here will also tend towards infinity. So here is another indeterminate form. If you have something like 7 over infinity, this here is not indeterminate. This here you can determine that it's going to head towards 0, because 7, and then as this number gets very, very big, then you know this whole thing here will head towards 0. When you get infinity over infinity, you can't really determine anything. So here, this is another example of an indeterminate form. You can't really determine anything. You have to do something cunning in order to evaluate the limit of this. So this here, you can't determine anything. Infinity over infinity, you can't determine anything. So this here is another example of an indeterminate form. There are others as well. So here, if you look at this, so here you've got one block multiplying another block. So if you look at this block here, the natural log of x looks like this. Well, the domain of this whole thing here is the domain would be x being greater, strictly greater than 0. So anything to the left hand side would be meaningless. This whole thing here would be it would break down. But the thing is, you can have it. You can head towards 0 from the right hand side. So this plus here denotes the limit as you're approaching 0 from the right hand side. So you're heading towards 0 from the right hand side. So this plus here denotes you heading towards 0 from the right hand side. If you have minus here, it's you heading towards 0 from the left hand side. Okay, well here you've got one block multiplying another block here. You want to know the limit as x tends to 0 from the right hand side. So if you look at this here, it looks like this. So as you approach 0 from the right hand side, you can see that this block here is heading towards negative infinity. You can see it's heading towards negative infinity. So this block here, as x tends to 0 from the right hand side, this thing here is heading towards negative infinity. If you look at this thing here, x squared looks like this, and you're approaching 0 from the right hand side. So this is you approaching 0 from the right hand side. You are heading towards 0. So this here, you're heading towards 0. So here you've got a case of 0 multiplying with an infinity. So here, this is another example of an indeterminate form. You can't really, you've got 1 heading towards, when you have 0 times infinity, even though it's a negative infinity, it is an indeterminate form. You can't really determine. This could win. So if you have 0 times, if you have a very, very small number times a very, very big number, you can't, it's hard to tell which one would win. This one's heading towards 0, this one's heading towards infinity or negative infinity. You can't really determine which one is going to win. So this here is another example of an indeterminate form. If you look at this here, this thing here looks like this. It looks like this. So as x tends to negative infinity, so negative infinity is you going in this direction. So this here you can see is heading towards positive infinity. And then if you look at this here, this graph looks like this. X here, as x heads towards negative infinity, you can see that it's heading towards negative infinity. So here you've got infinity versus infinity divided by negative infinity. This here is another example of an indeterminate form. Okay, so here is another example. Here you got 0 over. I will continue in the next video.